Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Giarmillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted the lives of the people in my network, colleagues, new colleagues, friends, coworkers, past business coworkers, everybody that I'm connected to try to find those great books and those great leads to get to those books that have made the best or the most impression, strongest impression on my guest. And the way that I do it is I cover three kinds of conversations in the series. The first kind of conversation is where they're telling me about a book that I haven't read. The second conversation is where we're talking about a book that we've both read, whether specifically for that episode or that we've read before the series even began. And then the third category is when I have an author and or publisher on to talk about the book that they have out, the value that they want to share with the audience, and just to get that message out there. So today, my guest is Samantha Buckley-Hugessen. And Samantha is a U.S. certified coach, originally from Seattle, Washington, and an expat living in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. She has two amazing kids, a wonderful 23-plus year marriage, and 3 fur babies. Sam is a force at 6 feet 2 inches tall. She is the life coach for leaders as their confidant, mentor, sounding board, ultimate counsel, and trusted advisor. She's transparent, direct, and down to earth as well. She has an incredible sense of humor. Her deep belief is that life is meant to be fun. She's super effective and passionate about helping people design and live lives they love. Samantha also has been managing and leading people her entire career and started her professional life coaching, sales, leadership, and mentoring company full-time in 2011. In October 2019, Sam released her first book, Unstuck Yourself, The Guide to Designing a Life You Love, and it gained Amazon International Bestseller status in 4 categories, and her company is perfectly named A Design Life, LLC. Now, Sam had heard about the podcast, reached out about sharing her message about her book, the wisdom and the work that she's been doing. We traded notes back and forth, got a good sense for what the other's mission is. So we wanted to sit down and have this conversation. I'm glad she joined me. So Samantha, thank you so much.
Are you kidding me? I was so grateful. Thanks for picking me.
So yeah, I could just get a sense even before we started recording that you like having a good time. You like enjoying life, just going with the flow. I love getting that sense from you. So who are you today? I always want to get a sense of who my guest is today, the work they're doing, before we jump into their book. So what are you up to today? What is the kind of work that you do with your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my career, I mean, as you said in the introduction, I changed careers. Hard stopped in when I was 45 years old. I went, enough of this, boom. And, I changed careers and decided to become self-employed and be of service and rather than for other people's companies and corporations and that. I really got in tune with what my values are. And at the time, it was about raising my kids. At my age group, a whole bunch of us were latchkey kids. And I didn't want that for my children. So that also has a lot to do with why we moved to Cabo San Lucas, so that I could, plus the gray, I'm from Seattle, so no. Anyway, world. Yeah. So today I am still a mom of 2 amazing kids. They're both off in university. So they're flown and grown. And I went through some stages in my coaching where I was only coaching really high ticket people. And to tell you the truth, it wasn't, I've shifted in not so much the money grab, so to speak. And sorry, I love money. I'm not going to say
of course,
for a second that,
Yep.
Part of the reason I became a coach is my husband's like, you're always helping people. Everybody comes to you. You should make your career of it. It's like,
yeah.
But my shift for 2024 has been a lot more to serve more people, impact more people rather than narrow and, impact 15 people a year. It's kind of why I wrote the book, right? Is that how do I serve and help more people love their life? That's it.
So is it just the work that you're doing, that do you do workshops as well, Samantha?
Yeah, I do workshops. I don't do retreats currently. I'm not sure I want to be that committed, but I definitely do about 4 workshops a year, typically quarterly. And then I lead groups and I have live courses and I do one-on-one. But I only work about 16 hours a week. That's part of my designed life, is that how do I make, my annual income in 16 hours a week?
No, that's beautiful.
It's awesome. And I help people do that too.
What was it that led you to go from the high ticket clients to, impacting more people? Was there a particular moment, instance, situation, event, what was the turning point that made you want to do that instead?
Yeah. No. I think I kind of followed along with the powerhouse people in the States, that were like making $500,000 or $1 million a year and yada, yada, yada. And it sounded sexy. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I love smart women. I'm not going to lie. I love smart women. I love having smart conversations, with empowered, yummy women. Right. And I'm a coach. I'm not a therapist. However, trust me, I can turn the hat backwards and I act like therapist often, but I always very clear that, this is not professional therapy.
Yeah.
What was happening is there was people I would talk to that would want to work with me and they couldn't afford me. And I wanted to work with them. Right? Because I could see so much potential and so much, and they were so coachable and they couldn't afford me. And so I didn't like that. So how do I create a way? Because I can't sit there and go, oh, I really like you, so I'm going to give you a lower price, because that'd be totally out of integrity.
Yeah.
You can't do it. So I decided to just lower and spread out and group a little bit more. My one-on-one coaching still isn't cheap. Right. But I created products that allow you to be in intimate groups of coaching too, so that you do get me and I do get you and maybe 5 other women or something, So yeah, that's the way that this business is going now.
And now to get to more of who you are before we dive into your book, can you tell me a little bit about your past in terms of where it all started for you? Whether it was jumping into your career, whether it was family that influenced those first couple steps into what you thought might be your career. What is your path from the beginning of when you might start thinking about a career in your life to now?
Well, here's the thing. My life is a little unique in the sense that, everybody's got a past. And mine was, I had a mom that was married 7 times, not just boyfriends, married 7 times. The boyfriends would be in between. You can she was a narcissist, probably she's passed away now, but probably had some personality disorders, so it creates an environment where you better fend for yourself. Right. It created a very codependent environment to boot. A lot of people misunderstand what codependency is. They think that you're always relying on somebody. You're relying on somebody for your own self-esteem. Typically, codependents are really very strong people who go in and rescue somebody. And, that's how they build their self-esteem, is they're always helping and rescuing. And, and then they get resentful and pissed off because it's not reciprocated, because typically, they picked people that aren't going to get it together. But anyway.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to help people because my childhood was so rocky. Right. So that jumping off point of wanting to help people started very young. I wanted to be a music teacher because music saved my life, I feel, when I was having the worst of it. And it was always there, always available. And so I went to school I dropped out of high school, by the way. So the fact that I'm a best-selling author is kind of mind-blowing, because I dropped out of high school my sophomore year, and then I dropped out of high school again my junior year. And then I went to college, And I found out that I was going to earn the same money once I graduated as a teacher that I was making putting myself through college, working a full-time job, right?
Mhm.
So I thought, oh, I'll just go back later. You know, I'll go back when I'm old, like 30, right? I'll be a teacher then. I was really fortunate that I had good work ethic. And and I got trained by a really great company back in the late 80s that taught me business and sales and leadership and all that kind of good stuff. They actually had a university within the business. So I was so
Nice.
lucky. Yeah. And what I discovered is I had security for the first time in my life because I was making enough money. So that would be all of it in a nutshell, is that if you were to ask me what was most important to me back then, and it's still true now, security.
Mm.
Security.
When it comes to your childhood, your experience with your mom, the codependency, so what was it that maybe pulled you the other way? Where maybe if you had gone with that codependency in that environment,
Okay.
what was it that kept you going? What was it that made you work harder? What was it that made you perceive the world in a certain way? Was there somebody that maybe offset that personality or that relationship? What was it? What goes behind that drive? Where does that come from? And I
So
know you had mentioned fending for yourself, but
yeah,
did you have other people? Did you have someone else that kind of guided you along or maybe served as a mentor or your own sounding board when you were younger?
no. I will tell you what I did have is I had a great example of what not to do. And
Mm,
I started down the same path, and I tell a very small portion of my story in the first chapter of the book. But I married my very own alcoholic because my mom was, marrying alcoholics and abusers and things like that. So I married my very own alcoholic abusive guy at 22, and I realized, oh my God, I'm on the same path, even though I didn't realize it. You know, you got to take a tough look at yourself. And I was in that marriage for 3 years, and 3 years too long because I didn't want to fail like my mom. Makes sense? And I was 22, 23, 24. Long story short, I went and got a lot of help. I ended up going into counseling because I picked it. I picked these situations. I'm not
mm,
a victim. So I'm really grateful for that with my mom, is she never took responsibility. Therefore, she kept repeating it. I took responsibility and your whole life will change. Because you can control it if you take responsibility for things. So that would be it.
yeah.
I had the
Mm.
best, worst experience of my life by picking my very own abusive, drunken, drug addict husband.
So in going back, and thank you for sharing all that, and going back
Sure.
to your career when you were working with that company that had the internal university and they
Yeah.
gave you all these skills. So what did that look like after that from there to when you started your own company?
Okay. Well, because I was trained so well, and the thing is it's one of the questions when I coach people, and they're typically I work with women who are leaders, self-employed, things like that. How to mentor and raise your team.
Mhm.
Plus, I do life work with people, of course. I'm their confidant, right? Is that because I was trained so well and so trainable, I moved up really quickly. I made a ton of money. I'm really grateful for this. This is not braggadocious. I was at the right place, right time, right. It was my path, and ended up getting recruited to bigger companies, higher positions, yada, yada, yada. Right. And finally, after I think in my mind, I made it. I had the big office. I had, the corner desk. I had 1,500 employees nationwide. However, I lived in Kirkland, Washington at the time, and my desk was actually in Dallas, Texas. So as sexy as that sounds, it gets really old. And I just realized one day I was miserable. Miserable. I don't want to do this anymore. This is not, I made it. So I quit. took some time off, and I actually made a list, which is interesting because you hear this in the book. I made a list of what do I want for my life? What do I want? Right? We're not in survival mode anymore. Let's get to, I didn't use the word design at the time. Yeah. I just said, what do you want, Sam? And I got out my, super giant, 20-pound Dell laptop because I was cool back then. I had a laptop anyway.
Okay.
And I just typed out what I wanted, went home, printed it out on my dot matrix printer, and I had a list of things I wanted. Oddly enough, I got everything on the list within a year. It was my beacon, it was my light, it was my focus.
Yeah.
And so that's what inspires the whole design your life. You're going to live your life one of two ways. It's either by design or by default.
Yeah.
Right? Wake up every day, go to the gym, leave,
Yeah. Yeah. And I find like that's where people get stuck. I mean, you provided a great example, like that default of you were more successful than maybe most, but that default of going through the motions, getting up there, maybe it was somebody else's definition of success. Maybe it would have fulfilled somebody else.
Amen. That's the paradigm part of it, right? My dad, I worked for the DMV for like a week because my dad's like, get a job, get a pension, go, he would have been tickled pink if I was a bank teller. My dad was 6'7" cop. You don't push against him, but I had to. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
The stories. So you'd ask me what brought me to this place is I bypassed through, a lot of the thinking technology that I teach people is, what would you love? Or what comes up is what you don't want. I don't want to work 40 hours a week. I don't want to travel all the time, whatever it is. So it gets you to what you love. I ended up, because the universe is really cool, breaking up with my boyfriend of 4 years. Super decent guy. We're still friends today, but he just wasn't the one, And I met my now husband, who I met in 1999, married him in 2000, moved to Canada. Remember, I told you I live in Cabo San Lucas because of the gray.
You went further north. Yeah.
Moved to Canada and was there and had a couple of kids. And it's like, okay, now what do I want? I want to raise my kids. So there you go. That's what brought me to this place. I want to be available. I want to drive them to school or pick them up. I want to be present. Yes, I still want to make a bunch of money. There's nothing wrong with money. The love of money above all else is where the problem's lie.
Exactly.
I
saw that posted somewhere on LinkedIn, like, is being driven by money a bad way of looking at things? And I'm like, no, like it all depends what you do with that money, how you treat other people, how you live your life.
Think of all the good you can do with a bunch of money, right? I mean, if we won the lottery, a girlfriend and her husband were visiting us up in Washington. We have another place in Washington when it gets really hurricaney and hot here. And they were visiting us, and they said, they go, imagine all the good we could do if we won the lottery. Boom.
Yeah. Boom. Yeah, I think so many people have had that conversation about what they would do if they won the lottery. And I think it shows a lot about the people you're hanging out with when you hear their responses. And I think most of my friends, most of my circles, when that comes up, that conversation, right? There's like a Powerball that's like 700 million. It's like, oh my God, can you imagine? And most of them are like, I would pay I'd pay everything off. Yeah. I'd pay my families. My friends, I would pay off. Yeah. And then they're like, okay. And then, maybe I'd look around for a second, whatever, like the nice to haves are.
Good for you for having that circle, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Everybody finds it at different parts of their life, points in their life, but money's amazing. Don't get me wrong. I'm the son of immigrants, blue collar workers. We didn't have everything we had everything we needed.
Yeah.
The basics. You know what I mean? So to me, I'm with you where money's important because I don't want to go back to that point that my parents had. And my parents came here for a better life for themselves and my sister and myself.
Amen.
So, you know, it's again, it's not about the money you have, but what you do with it, how you look at it, and what you value. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, it comes up a lot in my conversations with clients because money is one of the pillars in the book. You know what I mean? It's actually time, freedom, money, freedom is the same pillar. You know, there's a place where I crossed over in my life where time freedom was more important than money freedom. In other words, and I say that in the sense that I had enough money that now I could buy time.
Yeah.
Right. But you'd be amazed how many, I don't need to make that much money. I hear it all the time. I'm like, okay, well, I'll tell you what. You make it, give it to me, and I'm going to go donate it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, unkink that hose, break that paradigm, that poverty consciousness that people have. Like, it's ugly. Money is not ugly. The love of money above all else, ugly.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that point. That's key.
Cool.
So I can imagine your response, but does it make sense from your childhood that this is what you're doing today? How do you reconcile that?
Totally. Well, I walked the path already. You know, I mean, I have to be really honest. I never told people my story because I didn't want to be a victim. And then I had, you know, ghostwriters kind of help me because I write how I talk because I want my voice to be heard.
Absolutely.
And my ghostwriters were disgusted with that. They were like, you can't do that. I go, yes, I can. And it's funny. They'd come back with something. I go, that doesn't even sound like me. You need to change that.
Yeah.
That's no. So I wrote 7 chapters of the book with no help. And then they went back in and they said, you need to write your story. You need to open up with who you are. And that was a giant move for me. And it's still a very light dose of who I am or who I was or where I came from, because I did not want it to be a victim story. Right now, since I've had such feedback about the book where, you know, people say, oh my God, I grew up like you. Oh, I was in an abusive marriage. Oh, I was, you know, whatever. So yeah, it's amazing that I tell people I'd walk the walk. I'm just a little bit up the ladder from you. Right?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's who you want to work with as a coach. You know, I've had coaches in my life. I think coaches should have coaches. And they're just up the ladder from me.
Yeah.
They just have a different experience or a different view. Or, you know what my coach tells me all the time is like, you can't see your own eyebrows. So, yeah, there you go. I going through it gives me tremendous empathy and great vision.
Yeah, that the idea of victim and victimhood has come up in this series a lot. And I just as much the idea of not remaining there, not staying there. And like you said, you didn't want to paint yourself a victim, but you were at some point. It's almost like you're a victim at a point in time, but it's what you do with it going forward that dictates whether you're still a victim or you were and rose above it.
And that's why we say it was, you know, some of the best. You'd ask me, you know, was there somebody that was my mentor or something? No, my mentor was my circumstances in life of what not to do.
Yeah. Such a vivid example of what to avoid.
Yeah. Right. And that's what it was. And it's a what not to do. And I would tell you that those core values of mine now is very much about taking responsibility. Take responsibility for almost everything you can. Don't overtake it. Don't take things that are not yours.
Yeah.
And sometimes people do that to put their energy down and kind of they go too far. It's like, that's not yours.
I mean, yeah, some see it as like a badge of honor.
Right.
Like picking it up for everybody else. Like, look how much I can handle. And then meanwhile, it's like teetering. Or maybe they have it composed on the outside, but on the inside, it's kind of like they're ready to burn out.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Samantha, what does leadership mean to you? I'd be an idiot if I didn't bring you on this show and ask you what leadership means to you, or some great examples of leadership that you've seen in your life.
Leadership to me it's not going to be a super composed answer. It's just going to be a crapshoot here, but I'm going to tell you exactly what it means to me. It means developing people. It means modeling.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you have to be the best at everything of your team, so to speak. It means you need to see the best in people and develop them and rise them and raise them. And that's what leadership is. It's modeling and developing.
Absolutely. Awesome. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's jump into your book. Why don't you, I mentioned the title of the book, so we went through that. Why don't you give me a little bit of the lead up to actually writing the book? If there was something, if you'd been playing with the idea for a couple of years and then finally got it together and got motivated to get it out there, was it? It wasn't the pandemic, because I know it came out before the pandemic.
Yeah.
But what was the lead up to the book? Why did you want to put the book out?
Well, so I've been coaching on like Skype for 12 years. I've always wanted to do remote work because at the time, Cabo San Lucas was still a small, sleepy little fishing village, so to speak, a little bit of party town, but now it's huge. But I always wanted to have the ability to coach globally, which I was able to. But I still had people come into my office, right? And they'd be referred to me and whatever. And even in this office that I'm in right now, and I remember something that they'd say. I go, okay, why are you here? What can I do for you? You know, what's your expectation of our time together? And they would almost always say, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. And so I used that same technique that I shared earlier about let's find out what you would really love to have in your life.
Now, Samantha, is this a general stuck, or were you seeing people, leaders in business, or were they talking their life? I know a lot of it can
it's all of it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all of it. And that's the thing about that. And so it's funny because if you look at my title is I'm a life coach for leaders. That's my niche. Okay. And the niche is purely for who do you want to work with in marketing, right? It's all life coaching, if you ask me. Because
absolutely.
And I love getting into the messiness of life. And I love getting into the messiness and helping people see the path out. And they have to do all the work, right?
Yep.
I feel so grateful when people say you changed my life. You changed your life. I couldn't do it for you. Yeah. But thank you for picking me so that we could go on that journey together, right? Thanks for letting me be your person.
Absolutely.
You can see my dog in the background. I need to let my dog out because she's going to scratch the door. Hold on for a second.
Go for it.
I'm so sorry.
Absolutely.
This is the real life stuff here. Out you go.
Nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with real life.
This is the real life stuff. Yeah, it's great. I mean, a lot of people get to take their dog to work now, or they work from home, right? And she's a senior citizen, so what she says goes.
Oh, absolutely. No time. No
time. Anyway, so that was it. They'd say I'm stuck. And typically I love to use the example of a car because almost everybody knows about cars. Less and less people like driving them these days. But a car, you have cylinders, right? Let's just say you have a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder. And so you have your career is a cylinder, and you have your physical health is a cylinder, and your money is, you know what I mean? And your family is a cylinder. So you have all these aspects of life. The problem is when you blow a cylinder, you're putting a lot of pressure on the other areas.
Absolutely.
You're going to blow another cylinder, and now you're not performing. And now you're starting to like, I don't know what's wrong with my car. I don't know what's wrong with my life. And then it stops because it got stuck.
Yeah.
So looking at the whole person and finding a way out of that stuck state. So that's why I wrote the book. And that's why it says Unstuck Yourself, the guide to design a life you love. The book is actually a workbook. It's so funny. When it was first released, people would say, I got to chapter 3 and I go, you got to the point where you had to actually start doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of why I don't do a lot of seminars, because people will be really inspired and then their life will go back to normal. You don't change a lifetime of paradigms in 90 minutes or in a 20-minute keynote.
all that programming.
Right. And so it's a workbook. If anybody wants to pick up this book, just know it's really designed to help you shift and change.
Yeah, and I think that's what people need. I think all of us need that, is just that prompt, that accountability of doing the work. Like nothing's gonna come easy. And it doesn't have to be a huge task. It can be like little changes here and there. I think we get stuck in that we're impatient. We
Yeah.
want things right away. We want the result right away.
Yeah.
But I think people would be surprised how much you can change with just small, subtle, incremental changes from day to day.
Amen. I've said amen. This is 3 times I've said amen to you. Like we're totally on the same page here.
And I haven't read the book. I haven't read the book yet.
It's all right. You'll like it.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's a good one. One of the things that I teach my clients, and I just got out of a session before you and I got together today, and she's like, I'm really, really like every day, what's a thing I can do today? What's a thing? Because I teach the hell out of that. Yeah. It's not the best, the greatest, monumental thing.
Yeah, it's not groundbreaking.
Yeah, it's if you have a vision, I want to change careers, or I want to move, or whatever it is, and this is what the book's all about, is designing a life. First, you figure out what it is you'd love to have, and then, we assume we have it. So what's the thing I could do today in the direction of that?
Yeah.
Small steps. And then you just got to trust. I mean, I'm into the woo-woo, not crazy into the woo-woo, but like,
it's amazing. It's amazing how often that term comes up on this series, woo-woo. Yeah. I've learned to use it myself. What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Well, universal laws, source. Chapter 3 in my book is called The Grand Overall Designer, the GOD.
Okay.
Whatever that is to somebody, right? Yeah. Just there's something out there that's greater than you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't preach it or whatever, but listen, everything's energy. It's proven when the moon comes out and the tides change, you really can't debate it. So even if you're not into the spirituality portion of it, you can't, you can deny science, but the world isn't flat. Okay. Yeah. So anyway.
Samantha, so you've mentioned a couple pieces of the book, but can you give an overview of the book? What's the path you take people down when they're reading it? Maybe kind of like the order of the chapters. What does that process look like that you lay out for them?
Well, I'm going to open it up because I did write the book in 2019. And to answer your questions, by the way, it's been 5 years and it took me 5 years to get it to print.
Okay. Now I got to rewind and ask a little more about that. Okay. So was there a point in time? I know you mentioned clients were coming in, they said they were stuck. So that contributes obviously to the title of the book, but what was the time frame? Why were you thinking about writing a book? Was there something that happened that was like, okay, I got to put this to paper? Why did it take 5 years? Can you give me just a little bit of that story of getting it out the door?
I'm going to tell you how cool this is at this very moment, because now we're going to rewind back to the beginning where I told you that I'm changing my business model to serve more people.
Okay.
And I say that, thanks for asking this question again, because I just realized I wrote the book to serve more people. So now I've gone the whole cycle.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up, man. That's awesome. It was to serve more people. Period.
Just to get the word out there.
Yeah. It was to serve more people. And, then I built courses off of it. So it wasn't not about money. But you don't, this. We don't write books because we're going to make money like John Grisham on books. You know what I mean? Like on book sales, I'm thousands of dollars in the hole.
Yeah. It's tricky. It's a tricky industry.
Yeah, but on credibility.
But everything that comes along with it.
Yeah, on credibility and courses and people that really, really like me and, based on the book.
Why the 5 years? Why did it take 5 years to write?
Because I doubted myself and I wasn't disciplined at times and wasn't motivated at times. And then I didn't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Remember I told you I was a high school dropout. It's not that I wasn't smart, by the way. That had everything to do with my mom pulling me out of school and things like this. And I just I'm over it.
I don't know. This day and age, I don't know if you can to judge somebody immediately when they say they're a school dropout of any kind, whether it's high school or college,
Yeah.
I don't know that you can do that, because there's just so much that people are they're capable of that school just doesn't tap into.
Amen.
So it's like, you want me to wait 18 years for you to finally tap into what I'm all about, what I'm capable of. No, so I mean, for me,
Yeah.
I don't judge people right. It's one of those things where I don't judge something in the moment, but I do not judge, but I pay particular attention to what they did after the fact. Okay, you
Right.
dropped out, no judgment. But what did
And
you
then
do
what?
after? What did you seek out after? Why? Like that energy that they wanted you to use for school, what did you apply that to? And I've heard that story so many times in this series. So no judgment from me when somebody says they drop out. I just I want to hear what that next part of the story is.
So cool. And how wise are you to ask that and to frame it that way? Anyway, I think I was like everybody else on the dragging your feet. It's like, I want to write it. I don't know how to write it. I'll just start writing it, and then
Yeah.
and then what? And again, like now that was 2019. So I started writing it in 2014 or 15, I think.
Yeah.
And then when I decided, okay, this needs to get out there. I'm doing this. This is part of my vision, which is what I teach people to do. I teach them to create a vision for their life. I just took little steps every day. Okay, well, I'll start interviewing people to help me write it. Okay,
taking your own medicine.
Check it out. Here's what's really cool about it. Something, and so I'm going to jump around for a sec, but something
That's what
really
I do here.
Cool. Something really cool I think about it is that you get into this mindset when you do this visioning work, right? That anything's possible. It's all possible, right? When COVID hit, my 16-year-old son wrote a book and published it within 90 days.
Wow.
It's on if you look up Hugessen, his name is Kai, fiction, right?
That's awesome.
16 years old, self-published, yada, yada, yada. I wish I would have known how to self-publish, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, and is going to university for creative writing.
Amazing.
I know.
Now, a piece of that was because he saw you put out yours, I'm assuming?
Well, I think a piece of it is because mom wasn't nearly as educated as the education I provided for my children, as an option, by the way. It was always an option. It's like, if you don't want to go take the hard way. Right now, I'm giving you an opportunity to support you through this to I'd take the easy road, like go to school if I were you, but you don't have to. And I'm just going to take your education money and I'm going to go on a world cruise. You ain't getting it. Right. So I think it was a matter of the support. The kid did it on his own. I mean, he did it all on his own, 16. Right. And it's no small book. It's thicker than mine. It's got more words than mine does. I'm selling my house, so I don't have a copy of it. But it was just a matter of course you can. Of course you can. Wait. Well, could I do it? Absolutely.
I think this era of just capability and getting things out there is just different than when I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Things are just more, they're possible. The opportunities are greater. Everything is relatively more easy than it used to be. So it's there for the taking, and I think it's great when parents like you are out there showing them what can be done.
It's the mindset, though. There's a great mindset. The Gen Xers, I'm a Gen Xer.
Me too. Yeah.
So there's this, we have a certain mindset, and then, you have the millennials, and then, which, as much as we Gen Xers called them lazy and entitled and all that stuff, they've actually brought an amazing culture to businesses.
Yeah.
Right? Of life-work balance. Life-work balance. They don't have the mindset that my parents, like my dad was a coal miner. My dad was grew up in West Virginia, coal mines. They lied about his age. They lied about his age to get them in the military to get them out of the coal mines, right? So it's a whole get a pension, work hard. Life isn't easy. Life is hard. We were all, so we're products of our programming, and our parents did the best they could. And I would tell you, I feel confident, and my kids have told me so, that I also broke a generational, trauma or DNA or whatever.
Yeah. That's been brought up too, is just breaking that chain. Whether it's any form of trauma, any form of disruption from our parents to the Gen X generation onward. But it's exponential. Like if, from what you experienced in your childhood to the love that you're showing, the attention you're showing to your kids, it's a completely different fucking world.
Amen.
From my parents doing the best that they could, blue collar workers, lower middle class, we had everything we needed, right?
Yeah.
But then they were striving for my sister and I to reach what we have now. And it's a complete, now I'm educated, and now the house is much different than when I was growing up. My parents couldn't help me with my homework. They came from a different country. Now I can help my kid. It's like little subtle things like that. It's like little subtle things like that, things that they weren't capable, even the thinking. You know how it was growing up, Gen X, latchkey. It was kind of like, get it done, suck it up, and we're still about instilling our kids with hard work and values, but we approach it differently than they did before. So it's amazing what we can do in one generation.
It's amazing what we can do in one generation. And, like, what year were you born?
78.
So the fact that you still had parents that were married, because that was a super independent single woman raising kids in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
There was, I think there's two sides of our Gen X too. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that we started a big entitlement thing. Our big entitlement thing kind of started with the over nurture that happened toward the end. When I say over nurture, my kids, oh my God, I have such a crush on my children. They're my favorite people. They're my favorite people. And we're super close friends, but it never, ever is there a question of who the boss is.
Exactly.
And discipline and respect, and it's reciprocal, and boundaries, and you know what I mean?
That's what I say, because if I don't do it, if I don't teach you that before you leave my house, the world is going to teach you, and the world is going to have less mercy, and it's going to be uglier.
Our family values, kind. It's almost number one is kind.
Yeah.
And don't be a burden to society. In other words, be a contributor to society.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like, right? In other words, just don't show
and those aren't
whatever that looks like.
They're quality. They're really fucking quality values.
Yeah.
But they're not high bars to attain. It's free, being nice, contributing, helping others. That's the crazy thing, is they're so valuable, but they're free to do.
But there's so many people on the planet, in my family, who are victims, sucking off the, and it's poor little me, and help me, and the constant bullshit.
Yeah. And
it's just like, listen, just do the best you can where you can do the best you can, and that's enough. Be and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking at these kids in college, and their families are not raising them with kindness and that. I'm looking at these kids and I'm like, wow, this is probably one of the most narcissistic, Z generation that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a saving grace for my kids, is that they're being raised, and I'm not judging any, because I can't standardize like people based on when they grew up or whatever. But for me, my story, I think that's why I'm grateful my kids are being raised by myself and my wife, Gen Xers, because it's the same values that our parents bestowed on us.
Thank you.
We have more capabilities. We can afford more, better schools and whatnot, like all the nice to haves that make life better. But the values are the same. Like, it's amazing when I catch how we talk to our kids, where it's our parents like echoing in our heads. But thank God, because it is about accountability. For instance, if you're loud at a fucking restaurant, we're leaving. I'm not going to sit here and let you destroy somebody else's, just little
Right.
shit like that.
No,
Little shit
that's
like
a
that.
big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big deal. It's kind of like, I'm going to treat you how to operate in society.
Yeah.
And that's our responsibility as parents.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tell them. My responsibility is to deliver you into the world as an adult, not as a, you know,
absolutely.
Anyway, yeah.
And what's great is like, as much as we keep them accountable, no one's going to love them more than we do. You know, so with that accountability, that strict accountability, comes the best love you're ever going to have.
You know, it's so cool. It's like one of those great compliments. So my kids go to school in Canada, thank goodness, because that's how we can afford to support them and help them through it, right? And without loans and that,
Yeah.
that would really interfere with my freedom, right?
Yeah.
Having 2 kids in college. Anyway, and so last week was reading week. So that's their week off because they all get out of school in April, end of April. So we flew them into Seattle. We flew up to Seattle and we spent a week together. It was the best time, you know. We just got an Airbnb and yada, yada, yada. Long story short, they both brought up to us how their friends were shocked, like literally like, what? You want to go see your parents? And they go to different schools. They both had the conversation with their buddies and said, our parents are awesome. We love our parents. They're so cool. And let it be known, we're strict, but we're fun.
Yeah.
You know, and we love them and we're really great friends, but we're strict. I mean, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Started coming out of my mouth when they were teenagers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I invented that shit. I didn't try it.
Yeah. No, I think about that all the time because my wife and I talk about this very conversation. Excuse me. And what's funny is, yeah, I'm strict with them, but then when I love them, I love on them extra because I know that when I have to set them straight, I have to set them straight.
But that's the gift that you give them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's not to pat ourselves on the back, but that's an absolute gift, man, because I know we're getting off topic in the book.
Oh my God, we're having the best time though. I love it.
But what's crazy is I grew up with people that didn't have that. Grew up with people whose parents let them do whatever they wanted to. And at that age, I'm talking like early teens, I was jealous. My parents were like, curfew, you know, homework. And I'm like, what the hell? Look at my friends having like the best time. And most of those people are fucking gone now because they went down paths that led to drugs, that led to this, to that.
I was just talking about,
So it's just one of those things where you really see how, and I tell my son all the time, it's like little things that we do now have big meaning in the future. But I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say, Samantha?
No. It's amazing because I'm really loving this conversation with you. I love talking to smart people. And I say smart, as we already discovered, you know, I'm not book smart, like educated, like I don't know shit about history and all that stuff because I'm not interested in it. But anyway.
Yeah.
But I love having intelligent conversations. I was talking to my bestie yesterday, and we've been best friends since kindergarten. So, and she's, you know, got a kid that's often doing a semester abroad and blowing through money like never before suddenly with this new influence. Well, everybody else is doing it, right? And my girlfriend said, I can't believe everybody else is letting their kids do that. I go, oh, they are. Just so you know, they are, because my youngest is also blowing through money, which my eldest didn't.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
But it's who they're around is influencing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of irresponsible parents with a lot of money that are like, oh, go ahead. Really?
Yeah. Even when you say that, you're speaking based on what you're seeing now, like at the college age, but it's amazing just seeing how parents may let their kids do whatever they want now. My kids are younger than yours, 8, 5, and 2.
Nice.
But even being in the areas where you see other parents, what's that?
So fun.
Yeah, it is.
Every stage of parenting is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. It's always like, oh, this is like my favorite part of their life, and then something else
It
happens.
keeps
But
getting better.
and anyway, just to keep all this short, it's just interesting to see how other parents may talk to their kids, let their kids do things. It's just it's like a front row view of that ripple effect of how we talk to them when they're younger and what that may mean for their future. So
Yeah.
it's enlightening to have that conversation. I appreciate that.
No, me
All right,
too.
but back to your book.
Back to my book. You wanted the last question you asked me before we just went off on this great dialogue.
Great tangent. Great tangent.
The tangent, so good. Anyway, was table of contents, for instance.
Yeah. Just to kind of get an idea of how you walk your reader through.
So I'll just read you the chapters really.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So
Absolutely.
Being Stuck Sucks is chapter 1. Grand Overall Designer, the God, God, right, is chapter 2. Fluid Thinking. So that's really where we start getting into conditions and circumstances and designing. Come Back from the Future, which is get out of that anxiety state of always worried about the future.
That's a huge one.
I know.
Oh my
and God. Then chapter 5 is the past, leave it there. Stop dragging it along with you. The love of God. You are not your past. You have a past, but you're not your past, right?
Yeah.
Then chapter 6 is the only time is now, which is like, okay, just lean in. It's time. Let's go. Stop waiting for the perfect time to do shit.
Yep.
The best time to do it was yesterday. The other best time is now, right?
Absolutely.
And then watching out. So chapter 7 is called Do You Really Know? Which is watch out for that. Oh, I know that. There's a whole chapter on get over that. Because now you don't know that. You know about it. If you really knew it, you would live differently.
Yeah. I love that, distinguishing that. I know about it versus I know that. It's very different. It's very different.
Totally different thing. The power of belief, you know what? The power of belief, if you don't believe it, you can't con the universe. You can con your subconscious mind into I am, I have, I feel of all these things that you're designing. Your subconscious mind is so dumb. All it's doing is it's reflecting. It just sees what you tell it. It stores memories. And so if you're really good at visualizing and telling your subconscious mind great stories, you'd be amazed at all the great things that happen. If you sit in the I don't know, I can't, nobody ever gets to say I don't know or I can't with me. So if you're ever going to coach with me, that doesn't come into our sessions. What if you did know?
Yeah.
I'm not playing this victim. I don't know and I can't bullshit. And you also can't try. You either do it or you don't. You do it and fail. And then you do it again until you don't fail. But don't try, because that's just failing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of half-assing it. Yeah.
And then it talks about daily, like I have a chapter on PIMP, powerful, important morning practice. So I actually give tools for people to, learn how to visualize or learn how to meditate or breathing or intentions, affirmations, that type of stuff. I have an entire chapter on gratitude because I have found, and I'm 57, so I'm an old broad and I'm totally cool with it. I found that gratitude is like magic. It's insane. It's magic. And so I teach a gratitude exercise that is different than the I'm grateful for my coffee. I'm grateful for my it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. In all honesty, anytime I hear gratitude, I picture what you just acted out.
I know.
It has to go deeper than that.
Yeah. I've got one that is a great exercise.
When did you first not learn about it, but when did it really sink in with you and as to what it meant, or what was the experience that really changed the way you looked at gratitude?
Learning
Samantha.
This exercise.
Okay.
Learning the exercise that takes it out of the I'm grateful for my comfy bed. I'm grateful for, you know what I mean? It's it goes way deeper.
Okay.
It goes way deeper. And when you have to start digging for things, you start really seeing the world differently. And again, we talked a little bit about the woo-woo. I'm very into vibrations and frequencies and all that kind of good stuff, right? So it raises your frequency, therefore you get more good stuff because your frequency is higher. When you constantly, it's like when you're a shit magnet for a reason. So whenever people say, why does this always happen to me? It's like I'm a shit magnet because your energy is so fucked up.
Yeah.
You may have to edit that, but you know.
No, not at all. Nothing gets edited here. Yeah, that's amazing.
You get more of what you are, period. Look at your life. Take responsibility. Look at your life. If life is really, really hard, it starts with your thinking.
What you're doing and what you're tolerating, especially the tolerating part.
What you accept will continue.
Yeah. Like people bitching about people and boyfriends and girlfriends. It's like, yeah, but you keep letting them back into your life, or the shit bosses that piss all over you. Like, I don't know. No. It's just amazing how much we tolerate. You know,
I don't tolerate shit. I have really good boundaries. Just so you know, I'm like, that's one of the things you talk about leaders. It's one of the things I model. I have really good boundaries. And in that, my circle's gotten very small, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because they're people that love and respect me, and I love and respect, and we have really clear communication. And it's kind of like, there is no guilt. And, you know, it's like, hey, we're going to go do that. I don't want to. Thanks. Always invite me, but just accept I'm probably going to say no.
Yeah.
Boundaries are really important. It's like, that's not okay. You know, I've been married to my husband for, like I said, since 2020. We got married 10 months after we met. He had never even lived with a girl before. We were in our 30s, like totally unexpected. Canadian, nice family, you know, American, shitty family. It was just not in the cards.
Storybook.
Yeah. It wasn't in the cards, but that's why you leave the how out of things. And it's what would I love? I'd love to be married to somebody who adores me, who's got a tremendous sense of humor. Right? What?
Yeah.
Leave the how out of it. Can't predict how. You can't predict I was going to move to Whistler, British Columbia and live in a ski resort. I was a city chick.
You went north.
I went north. And you wouldn't predict him that he would ever live in Mexico. That everybody gave him 6 months. And it's been 16 years.
Wow. Samantha, was that the end of the book?
Yeah. No, the end of the book is, sorry. I digress. It's The Road Ahead. So it talks about bumps in the road. Just because you read the book and you were really good at studying for this, you know, week or month, trust me, you will get sucked back. It is how it works. It's like when I coach people, I don't do one-off coaching. If they want a mastermind session, that's different. But if they want to become a client and really, you know, get good at changing their paradigms, they have to work with me a minimum of 4 months.
Yeah.
Because they start changing really fast. Life gets really good. It's like, yay, this shit works.
But it's easy to fall back into old habits.
They always get paradigms. They're sneaky little bitches. I write it in the book all the time. They will lure you back. Okay. So it is The Road Ahead, explaining the gap and the bumps. And then I have them do their vision again. So, and the answer is, do you really know? So it's the same as the earlier chapter we talked about knowing about. It's kind of like, let's talk about what you know now. It's a takeaway. It's a button up. Yeah.
Like, what did you really learn?
Yeah. What did you really learn? And, you know, you can write in the book, or I give people in the book my website and they can go in and print off a workbook. So, and there's Audible, just so you know.
Yeah.
I laugh all the time how many times people say, oh my God, I have you in my car.
I'd be curious to hear it that way, coming from you, the author, your experiences, your sense of humor. Yeah, exactly. Samantha, is there a certain part of the book that resonates most with people? Everybody's going to have their own thing that they kind of gravitate towards, but is there a particular section it seems captures the most people or hits them hardest?
Usually it's the first chapter when they hear my story. And then, because it's all about imperfection, right? It's all about imperfection. Anyway. And then when they actually learn how to design their lives when it
Okay.
is really the exercise of writing out a life they love and then reading that life.
What lessons did you take away from writing this book? How did this book change you, whether it was the way you looked at the topic itself? You've gone through like the writing process and what that looked like, the notes that your ghostwriters would have for you. But is there anything else that kind of evolved in you as a result of this book coming out, putting the book together?
Yeah. I'm not a hypocrite. I live by what I teach. That's for me, because it is a workbook. It's about helping people change their life and impacting people. That was what's in it for me. As far as the process, I'm a big fan of ghostwriters. I would interview more. I would definitely interview more that really got my tone and not accept less than what you really wanted to do. Because I got frustrated at the end. I said, let's just get it out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Because I got into a little bit of this with my ghostwriters, right? I'm very impatient, which is great for me because I get shit done. When I put off to tomorrow what you could have done yesterday, I am not a procrastinator in the life design thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it. If I was going to give advice to people that were considering writing books, really go ahead and get help. Please get help. Get over yourself. There's people that are experts at writing books. Let them live in their genius and you go be an expert on your content and let them dress it up for you. You know what I mean?
What do you think is next for your writing? Or have you written anything since?
No, you know what? I wanted to go back. I was gonna write another book called Unstuck Yourself again. But at this point in my life, I don't want to work that hard. Just right now. Right now, my direction is I'm going to do a lot of downloadable kind of, PDFs and courses and stuff where that's going to be the deeper dive than just one book.
Yeah. And what book has inspired you? Podcast about books. Obviously, I want to ask, we're talking about your book here, but what's one book that stands out for you that kind of really dug its values into you or really stands out?
I have a few. Think and Grow Rich was one that I didn't get introduced to until my 40s, by the way.
Yeah.
The Greatest Salesman in the World is Og Mandino. Love Og Mandino. Talk about imperfection, right? Like such a great story. Just, it's good. That's it. So that's really it. I mean, I am much more of a podcast person. If I start reading a book, I tend to fall asleep. I know. Isn't that great though? Thank goodness for, and maybe it's because I'm old, but I like to listen to audio books, right? And I go for hikes, in Baja and stuff like that, and I listen to books.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my author. How's that?
Yeah, I'll have to check those out. And then in wrapping up, is there anything else you want to share? Anything maybe we didn't cover? Anything you have coming up that you want to share with people? Anything at all that you want to share with this audience?
I'm going to give you another author if people are interested in really improving their life, and personal development, whatever. And it's an author named Wallace Wattles. That's it. Go look up Wallace Wattles. Yeah. I will tell you that everything that you've ever heard from Tony Robbins or Anthony Robbins or any of the great thought leaders, anybody that's into that, it came from what was discovered first by Thoreau, first by Thoreau, and then explained again by Wallace Wattles in the early 1900s.
Okay.
So cool, right?
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting. Yeah, that'll be interesting. If you share that they kind of got those ideas from, and that it goes all the way back to Thoreau, I'd love to see that kind of evolution of thinking. Yeah.
Okay, so then there you go. So you should come to one of my workshops because I talk about how this came about. You know what I mean? How it started back with Walden and, Thoreau and all that. Yeah.
Huh.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So what's coming up for me is I'm just doing more of what I'm doing. You know, I'm doing another workshop in April. And people can get on my mailing list, go to my website, get on my mailing list, and then I send out invitations. It's virtual. I do limit the number of people. I know that sounds bad for business, but it's because my motivation is truly to make an impact. And if there's too many people,
yeah,
then they get lost on my radar.
How many people do you limit it to?
30.
Okay.
So what'll happen is 50 will sign up because we have a high no-show rate. And then because it's just people get excited and then, oh, well, I'd rather drink wine. I'd rather drink wine or whatever than to go to this workshop. And then because it's live and interactive, I make people have their cameras and their microphones on. So it's not a lecture. It's a workshop.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so a lot of people will drop off then. It's like, oh, I don't want people to see me. Oh my God, get over yourself. People are not paying attention to you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing about us is we think everybody's looking at us, but they're worried. They're worried about their own shit.
They're so worried about their own shit. No offense. I'm sure they love you, but they could really give a shit. And
no, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
And if they're really like focused on judging you, they're not your people. So take it as a signal. Get rid of them.
Yeah, that's huge. It's one of those things where I don't know. I see on Facebook so often people are like, oh, all these people out here hating what I'm doing, or all these people talking shit, or it's like, who are you fucking listening to? Who are you surrounding yourself with? You know, I mean, it's mostly people that I see that are my age. It's like, we're in our fucking 40s. Like, you're still putting up with hanging out with assholes. Like, I don't know. Right? You got to really pay attention who you're giving credence to and who you're tolerating in your circles. It just, that either pays dividends or just siphons everything, every ounce of energy out of you. So
right. And so that's where it comes in too. When you do your own work in life, whatever that looks like. I didn't start doing personal development work or woo-woo work literally till my 40s. Because my mom literally would raise me on, I can't get out of bed. Mercury's in retrograde. I'm like, what? You know, and so I was like this to all that stuff. And then it just kind of then when you start looking for it, you see it all around you. You're like, oh, this
I think
real.
Maybe episode 4, 5, or 6 of this series, I covered the book Frequency with my guest then, Jess Mans. It's frequency, it's vibrations. And I don't know if it's because when you get into your 40s, you start realizing that it's real, that the energy, that it's not your physical energy, but it's like the energy that you put out into the world, the energy that you get back from the world, that's, I don't know. I believe in it. She converted me, so I'm with you.
I'm so happy that she converted you because that's a lot of how I work with people. And I go, here's the deal. Just trust me.
And I think she's the first one that mentioned woo on here. But
well, I always tell people, you've been doing it your way all along, yet here we sit. So try it my way and let's see what happens. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I've got evidence. I've got so much evidence.
Yeah.
Right, by working out in life. Okay, so I want to leave you on that topic. I want to leave you with a statement. It's not in the book, but it should have been. Maybe it is in the book. It's been a long time since I read it.
What if you don't want to put all that energy into like a sequel to the first book? What if you go back and redo the first book in some capacity based on knowledge that you gained in the last 5 years?
Second edition. Right?
Especially a second edition, but especially the pandemic turned everything fucking upside down. So I'm just putting it out there. Right. You know, you don't have to put 5 years worth of energy into a whole new book, but there is credence to, you know, Unstuck version 2.0 and building off of what's already there. But anyway, what were you going to say? That what's
it's good because there's stuff that we've been talking about that should go in the book that isn't, right? Okay, so here's my statement that I like to give people that believe in the frequency and energy and all that stuff. That takes a lot of stress and anxiety off of people because a lot of people are wound up tight.
I'm listening.
There is an answer to every question and a solution to every problem. It exists. The thing where people miss it is that your answer and your solution is not in the same frequency as the problem. Get out of the problem, get into the solution frequency, which is just the solution mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be as simple as, you know what, I don't know the answer to this right now, but I know the answer exists. For that, I'm grateful. So let's start opening ourselves up for possibilities. Your life will change with that.
Absolutely. I believe that. Absolutely. And again, Samantha's book is Unstuck Yourself, The Guide to Designing a Life You Love. Samantha, thank you so much for your time. All
John,
the
I
way
had a
from
blast.
Cabo St. Lucas. Yeah, just everything you shared, the little tangents that we took off, Samantha, it was all great. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, and have an incredible day and stay warm.
Smart ass. All right. If there's anything that I might have missed, there's so much to cover, limited time. Let me know. I'll reach out to Samantha and see if there's any insights, additional wisdom, anything, any points that she can share with us. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.